You know what? I grew up not that guy.
Yeah.
So a lot of people put a title on me. They want to, they see me now. They see me now as the guy that with his shirt off, who can do 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours, who can run 205 miles in 39 hours, who can do all this crazy shit. But what they don't understand is they don't understand the journey that it took me to get to this point. And what got me to this point was I was just the opposite of what I am today. I was that guy who ran away from absolutely everything that I got in front of me. But not many people knew that. I had two people. Like the real me was like this very scared, insecure, stuttering, got beat up by his dad, all this kind of stuff. And then I built this fake person that walked around like my shit didn't stink, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I did it. And through a process of time, I realized that I was lying to myself and lying to people.
But it's a fascinating journey, though, because you are that guy now.
Right.
I mean, you genuinely are a legit badass.
Right.
And at one point in time, you were a legit terrified person.
Yes.
So what was the process? Like, how did you step forth?
Well, it's a long process.
Right.
My dad beat the shit out of me when I was growing up. I was the first black baby born in this hospital called Miller Fillmore in Buffalo, New York. My dad owned skating rinks, he owned bars, he ran prostitutes from Canada to Buffalo, New York. My dad was a big time pimp, big time, anything bad about a person, big time hustler. He was American, you know that movie with Denzel Washington? Mm-hmm. He was that, but not that bad.
Right.
You know, he wasn't that big, but that's what it reminds me of. He was that kind of guy. And beat the shit out of me, beat the shit out, out of my mom. There was an incident one time when my mom got knocked out on top of the stairs, and he dragged her down the stairs by her hair. And at 6 years old, I'll never forget this. In my mind, I was always afraid. My whole life I was afraid, but I had this fucking voice, this conscience that would always be battling me, saying, hey, you got to get up and do something. I didn't want to do shit. I was just afraid, but that voice would force me to get up. And my dad, I tried to beat him up, whatever, at 6, and I get my ass kicked. So this went on for several years. And I have a big time learning disability because my dad didn't believe in us going to school. So my dad, it was about the business, the skating rink and the bar. So the skating rink opened about 7 o'clock at night. And this is when the time I was able to walk. So about 4, 5, 6 years old, 8, 9. And I'd go to this, skating rink at 7 o'clock at night. And I worked the skating rink until 10 at night. And then we would scrape the gum off the floors and we cleaned the whole skating rink up. And then my dad had an office. And my brother and myself would sleep in the office. And my mom would go upstairs and work the bar until 3 o'clock in the morning. And then they cleaned the bar up. So after all that shit was done with, going to school rarely happened. So when I went to school, I was all kind of, my learning disability. I had social anxiety. I was just a jacked up kid from living in this tortured home. From the outside looking in, we lived in an all-white neighborhood, and then we would travel to the ghetto of Buffalo, New York, where the skating rink was at. So we worked around mostly blacks, and I lived around mostly whites, but no one knew what was going on in that house on 201 Paradise Road. It's crazy. But my mom got courage to finally leave him when I was about 8 years old. We moved to a small town in Brazil, Indiana, and that's when the real war started for me. And Brazil, Indiana is a small town. Great people, a lot of great people. And I say that because a lot of people get offended. And I'm going to get to the point why they get offended. There was about maybe 10 black families at about 10,000 people in the town. And in 1995, the KKK marched in the 4th of July parade. So this was not everybody was racist. There was a lot of good people. Some of the best people I knew was there, but there was also a lot of racism there. So me being one of the few black kids in that, in that area, it kind of haunts you. I had stuff on my notebook, we're going to kill you, on my Spanish notebook. They had that on my car, we're going to kill you. This is early 90s. And so even though I showed it didn't hurt me, it was jacking me up. So all the insecurities I had when I was a kid with my father, I moved into this area here, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And the shit haunted me. And that voice that I talked about, it kept talking louder and louder and louder. I was doing nothing about it. And I decided to make moves. And I cheated all through school. And it's kind of humbling to talk about my stories sometimes, and it's also embarrassing, but it's real. It's who the I am. It's what I am. It's what created me. And copy from the 4th grade to my junior year in high school on every assignment. And I wanted to get in the military, wanted to join the Air Force, and the guy gave me an ASVAB test. It's like a watered down SAT. And I couldn't copy on it because the guy beside me had a test A, I had test B, the guy on my right had test C. So I looked to copy on this test and I couldn't copy on it, so I got like a 20. And I wanted to be an Air Force pararescueman. It's guys that jump out of airplanes and save down pilots. It's a special operator in the Air Force. And my score was so horribly low that I'd retake it again. And he said, hey, I got like an 18 the second time, even worse. I need to get a 50 out of a 99. And so my mom and I, for a while, we lived in the government subsidized apartments, $7 a month, and also food stamps. And we slowly moved up to a $230 a month place. But at the time, we were pretty poor. But my mom afforded enough money for me to go to see a tutor one hour a week. So for 4 hours a month, and I had 6 months to study for my last test. I could only take the ASVAB test 3 times. And I studied my ass off and passed it. And I got in the Air Force and realized there was more things in front of me. I was afraid of the water, terrified of the water. And I learned how to swim, but what gets everybody in this training, in all special ops training, is the water confidence, where they try to pretty much drown your ass. All of our lives we've been breathing, and they take that from you, and they want to see how comfortable you are underwater. And there's only 1% African Americans in special operations. And I didn't know anything about African, like a lot of them are negative buoyant, which I am, because of the bone density. I struggled. But 6 weeks into the program, there was about 25 guys left out of about 150. I was there, and I didn't go to sleep for 6 weeks of the program. And I wanted to quit so badly, but I quit everything in my life. I copied through school. I wanted to prove people wrong. And so here I am in this Air Force program, starting to get a little more confidence, but this water was kicking my ass. And 6 weeks into the program, the doctor gave me a blood test. It was I have sickle cell trait, not the anemia, but it still killed people. But so they pulled me out of training for a week. And when you go from being very uncomfortable in that water situation, and then now you're comfortable, and I'm sitting back watching the guys drown, 'cause I'm not part of the activities anymore for this week. I didn't want to get back in that damn water again. So the fear overcame me, and all my insecurities from my dad, from this small town, from everything started coming back. And even though no one knew how fucked up I was, kind of create this other person who was tough, I lived with this shit all the time.